And as I've said before, work hard when it gets to those exam times, okay? I've never met anyone who regretted later in life that they worked really hard to prepare for something. And I have met way too many people who fully regretted not working hard. So don't live with regret. Get after it. Give your very, very best as you do both APs and final exams. Got a few announcements. We've got a guest speaker this morning. First, I want to congratulate Cal Fuller and the entire theater staff for the one acts. I want to thank the directors and casts and crew for their efforts on Discontinued, which was the 2022 MBA Student One Acts. You guys, there are a few slides going on right now. You guys created original works that were both entertaining and really thought-provoking. You did a tremendous job, and the variety of styles and the issues that you brought out were really impressive. And we thank you so much for your hard work and just the excellence that you always show in that area. Secondly, there's going to be a trip to South Africa this summer. If it's something you think you would be interested in as a student, please contact Ms. Williams, Annie B. Williams. She'll be the one spearheading that trip and would be happy to answer any questions you might have if you're interested in going to South Africa. Next, I'm going to introduce Dr. Boyd, who is going to present an award called the Spirit of Cricket Award. And this is an award that was established last year to be given annually to one of our students by Dr. Boyd, and it goes to a member of the senior class. It's the result of a generous donation from a family who had a son who graduated from MBA a few years back. And it is in appreciation of the help that Dr. Boyd gave this young man. He had issues both in school and out of school that were really difficult. And Dr. Boyd took him under his wing, worked with him, and helped him through a very difficult time, and that young man is flourishing today. And the family, as a result of that, has given money for this gift because of Dr. Boyd's efforts in helping this young man navigate some tough challenges. The award is to recognize a student who's shown grace, resilience, and commitment to the welfare of others during their years on the Hill. And Dr. Boyd's now going to say a little bit more about the award as he introduces this student. Dr. Boyd.
Thank you. So good morning. I'm very pleased to have the chance this morning to recognize a senior who's shown the kind of character, selflessness, and care for others that the spirit of cricket calls for. As was the case last year, as well as introducing the recipient, I want to use these few minutes just to say a little bit about what the spirit of cricket means, share a little bit about the sport itself, and perhaps also even prompt Sam Alassi and Travis Swafford into finally organizing the first cricket practice since they took over as presidents of the club nearly 2 years ago. To remind those of you, the rules of cricket begin with a description of the spirit of the game, and playing within that spirit is far more important than the technical element of any rule. To be within the rules but against the spirit, that is, to put your own interests ahead of what is fair and right, is in some sense to betray the game itself. A principle, I would argue, that echoes what we have in mind when we think of what it means to be a gentleman. To illustrate what the spirit of cricket looks like, I want to mention today two Australian legends of the game who died within hours of each other this past March, Rod Marsh and Shane Warne. It seems particularly fitting to pay tribute to them today, since today is the Australian equivalent of Memorial Day, known as Anzac Day. Marsh played the equivalent position to a catcher on a baseball team, except in cricket it's known by the more poetic title of wicket keeper. Now you're probably thinking, what is a wicket and why does it need keeping? So let me help you with that. A wicket is several different things. The strike zone the batter is trying to protect is a wicket. The area between the bowler and the batter is the wicket. When a batter is out, it's called taking his wicket. And as any Star Wars fan should know, the main Ewok on Endor is also called Wicket. So as you can appreciate, every wicketkeeper has a lot of wickets to keep. Early in his career, Marsh made a lot of errors. They became so common he was nicknamed Iron Gloves. On one occasion, at a crucial moment in a match, Marsh tried to catch a hit from the opposition's best batter, but fumbled it as he dived forward. The umpire thought it was a clean catch and gave the out. The batter did not protest. There was no video replay in those days, and nobody in the stadium other than Marsh himself knew it was an error, not an out. And the match was on the line. His career was on the line. He'd broken no rule. He could have said nothing. But he called to the batter to stand his ground and signal to the umpire what had happened. And that is the spirit of cricket. Shane Warne was one of the greatest bowlers, so the pitchers in cricket of all time. He was the cricketing equivalent of a knuckleball pitcher and retired with the second highest career outs of any player. Throughout his career, he regularly shredded England's batting lineup in particular. In 2005, Australia lost an eye-wateringly tight series against England on the fifth and final afternoon of the fifth and final match, thanks to an England rookie who in a single at-bat scored 158 runs off 187 pitches. It was Warne's last appearance in England, and even though it ended in painful defeat, you can see in this picture here, the first thing he did was to congratulate the young player on his series-winning effort. That too is the spirit of cricket. This year, I am proud to give the NBA Spirit of Cricket Award to a senior who embodies these same virtues as Martian Warne, and whose time on the Hill has seen him dedicate his efforts to the good of the school and his classmates in a way that has enriched both, even as he never sought credit for doing so. His advisor described him perfectly, writing that he does not care about being the star of any team, and yet has been an integral part of so many of them. He was an instrumental member of the tech crew for stage productions for many years until he landed a lead role his senior year on the very stage he'd helped to light in the past. On a different crew, he has helped to push the sport of rowing at NBA to new successes by inspiring more boys to join the team. And similarly, he has served as the go-to student photographer for practically all of the student-led publications on campus, which would have been far less beautiful without his dedication and skills. This latter role captures his impact perfectly, always present, always supportive, and always turning the lens on others to make sure they are recognized while maintaining his trademark humility, kindness, and affability. The Spirit of Cricket Award comes with a check, a brand new cricket ball, having your name engraved on the honours board in Carter, and a binding commitment to take part in the 2022 Cricket State Championship as soon as Travis and Sam get their act together. So for all he's done for NBA, and especially for the way in which he has done it, I'm proud to present this year's award to Darren Hall. Okay, next up we're going to have a performance from the choir, and Mr. Colavita is going to briefly introduce the song they will perform.
All right, good morning, everybody. So the piece we are about to perform is actually a brand new work. It was composed originally for this group of singers by a composer named Ili Matthew Magnano. He's a composer who lives and works in Manila in the Philippines. And the piece that he wrote for us tells the story of a tale from Filipino mythology of an omen bird. It's called the Tigmamanukan bird, and as the story goes, if you are a traveler encountering this bird and it flies to the right of you, it gives you good luck. But if it flies to the left of you, or worse, if someone sneezes and scares the bird away, you should turn back because you will not reach your destination. It's very much a superstition sort of thing, similar to, we have, if a black cat crosses your path, that sort of thing. The piece is lively and rhythmic and filled with jazz harmonies, and it's very difficult to sing. It's also a lot of fun to work on. You'll see through the piece, it tells the story of a group of travelers encountering one of these birds. They follow it into the jungle. They are searching for it. They become weary, and then they finally catch it and release it. So we all hope you enjoy this performance, one of the first ever performances of this piece, Ili Matthew Magnano's Tigmamanukan.
Oi kita ai wawala kuna koi me ka kana la la bai ka Oi kita ai wawala kuna koi me ka kana la la bai ka Oi kita
Thank you to Mr. Colavita and the choir for that performance. Next, this week, we are very lucky to have a visiting writer with us, and I'm going to turn it over to Lawson Patterson, who's going to introduce him, and then we're going to hear from our visitor.
Good morning. My name is Lawson Patterson, and it is my pleasure to introduce MDA's visiting writer, Bruce Holsinger. Professor Holsinger teaches at the University of Virginia, where he's a professor of English and the editor of the journal, New Literary History. He's an accomplished scholar of medieval literature and culture, with numerous publications to his credit, including his 2005 book, The Pre-Modern Condition and the Parchment Inheritance, which will be published this fall. In 2014, Professor Holsinger published A Burnable Book, his first work of fiction set in 14th century London, with the poet John Gower playing the role of detective to disrupt a plot against the king. Holsinger followed that up with The Invention of Fire in 2015, another political thriller set in the age of Chaucer that features the introduction of the handgun into English culture. In 2019, Holsinger published The Gifted School, a satire of contemporary helicopter parenting set in Crystal, Colorado, a fictional version of Boulder, where Holsinger lived for a decade. His fourth novel, The Displacements, will be published this summer. Professor Holsinger is meeting with English classes today and tomorrow. This evening at 5:30, he will give a public reading in DPS. That program will begin with readers from the winners of MBA's Roscoe Bond Davis Poetry Contest. And now, please help me welcome Bruce Holsinger.
Thank you so much. Thank you for that wonderful introduction, and thank you all for having me here. Luckily, my backpack is safely inside, so I don't have to worry about that. When I was asked to come visit this week, I asked what the expectations were for these remarks. I was told I might talk about how I balance the different parts of my writing and professional lives, maybe tell a little bit about my story, highlight the lessons I've learned along the way. Since I'm visiting you in my capacity as a novelist, I thought I should probably share lessons I've learned specifically about writing. And the first slide, maybe I could share this quote from George Orwell, who wrote, "Writing a book is a horrible, exhausting struggle, like a long bout of some painful illness. One would never undertake such a thing if one were not driven on by some demon whom one can neither resist nor understand." Or this one, from William Carlos Williams, who said that all writing is a disease. You can't stop it. And who could forget Charles Bukowski's great poem, "So You Want to Be a Writer." If it doesn't come bursting out of you in spite of everything, don't do it. Unless it comes unasked out of your heart and your mind and your mouth and your gut, don't do it. Unless it comes out of your soul like a rocket, unless being still would drive you to madness, don't do it. Unless the sun inside you is burning your gut, don't do it. When it is truly time, and if you have been chosen, it will do it by itself, and it will keep on doing it until you die or it dies in you. There is no other way, and there never was. Now, all of these guys are committed to the notion that art is suffering, that writing is pain and agony, that the production of prose or poetry has to entail some kind of misery or torment. But does writing really have to be this way? I worry about these notions of writing because I think a lot of people, especially young people, can get turned off of writing because they buy into this idea so often conveyed by established authors that writing has to mean sacrifice or impoverishment or discomfort. If you want to be a writer, you have to write every day without fail, and the only way to do that is to get your butt in the seat every day, no matter how much it hurts. Pardon the colorful prose, but as Dorothy Parker wrote, writing is the art of applying the ass to the seat. Another slide. No, actually, keep it right there. But your generation has suffered enough, I think. Maybe if you choose to be a writer, a full-time professional writer or a part-time tinkerer, everything in between, you'll instead find joy, pleasure, and excitement in the process, rather than sickness, affliction, and tribulation. Yes, sometimes writing can be painful in various ways, but for the vast majority of people who consider themselves writers, past and present, writing is a mostly pleasurable and sometimes ecstatic hobby, and that's exactly as it should be. This was certainly how fiction writing started for me. I didn't publish my first novel until I was in my 40s, and that's not because I'd been trying to publish for 20 years and finally broke through. Growing up, what I really wanted to be was a musician, a clarinetist. Music was my passion, my drive. For college, I went to music school at the University of Michigan in Ann Arbor, and my only goal in life was to be a clarinetist in a major symphony orchestra. I thought I was all set, but then one morning it happened. Just before orchestra auditions my last semester, let's say I wasn't in great shape, and I blew the audition. I didn't even get into the second orchestra, didn't even make the top band. Standing there in the hallway looking at the audition results, I started to understand that I'd sabotaged myself on purpose, though without knowing it at the time. So I switched tracks and I applied to graduate school, ended up at the University of Minnesota, then I ended up at Columbia for graduate school. That's where I met my wife, and we moved together to Boulder, Colorado, where I started my first real job as an assistant professor of literature at the University of Colorado. During the next few years, my wife had a job at the University of Wisconsin. We were living 1,000 miles apart. I had some time on my hands, so I decided to switch tracks once more and try writing a novel. How hard could it be, I thought. The novel I wrote, if you could call it that, was a contemporary techno-thriller with a medieval background. One of the characters was a helicopter pilot named Chad. One of the sentences read, "The mashed potatoes were as fluffy as white clouds." It wasn't Toni Morrison, it wasn't Ernest Hemingway. Needless to say, I didn't find a publisher or even an agent. A few years later, I tried again. I wrote a novel about an English professor who discovers a lost manuscript. Couldn't publish that either. But I did find an agent, and she suggested that I write a book set in the period that I study and teach for a living, medieval England. Over the next few years, working on and off, next slide, I wrote A Burnable Book, which is a novel set in the streets of medieval London, involving the search for a book of prophecies about the assassination of English kings. I followed up a year later with this book, The Invention of Fire, a historical thriller about the earliest gunpowder weapons, and then my third novel, The Gifted School, a book about a group of parents trying to get their kids into an insanely competitive school for exceptionally gifted children, came out just a few years ago. So you can see I switched tracks yet again, from the medieval to the contemporary. By a stroke of luck, the book came out just as Operation Varsity Blues was breaking in the national news, and my novel got caught up in the whirlwind of coverage. The Wall Street Journal and Vanity Fair called it the book that predicted the college admissions scandal, and my book tour included a series of confrontations with readers, mostly parents, angry that I would poke fun at the contact sport of competitive parenting, in which I'm a longtime expert myself, believe me, and that's a whole other topic. My new novel, which comes out next summer, also takes on a contemporary issue, and you can have the next slide here. Though a more serious one, climate change, telling the story of what happens to a family from Miami in the aftermath of the world's first Category 6 hurricane. Next slide. So I guess you could say that I take a hummingbird approach to my writing, flitting here and there, never staying in one area for long. And if there's one thing I've learned about myself as a novelist over the last 10 years, and it's something I've learned from a lot of other writers I've come to know, it's the danger of taking yourself too seriously. We all do that on some level. Now, by that I don't mean taking your writing too seriously, because anyone who wants to publish needs to take their writing with dead seriousness, care for it, nurture it as if it's someone you love. But part of taking your writing seriously is learning from your mistakes. You have to be able to take criticism. You have to have thick skin, and most of all, you have to be able to laugh at yourself sometimes, and even be able to wince or cringe at your foibles and your follies. I know some writers who swear they never read reviews of their books, and if you come across one of those, you'll know they're a pathological liar. Most writers I know admit they read their reviews obsessively. I know I do, whether they're published in the New York Times or the Washington Post, or put up on Amazon.com by disgruntled anonymous reader. For example, these one-star reviews, a few of my novels over the last 6 or 7 years. I'm deleting last names to protect anonymity. One of the worst things I've ever read, Chef Automatic writes on Amazon of my most recent novel. Dull and uninspired writing, just awful, Heather agrees. I couldn't get through this petty-ass drivel. Of The Invention of Fire, Mandy writes, I'm out. It's literally putting me to sleep. And in my first novel, A Burnable Book, Bill has this to say: a convoluted mess. The book started out fairly ambitious, but fell flat almost all the way through. The hero was impossible to cheer for, and the setting and plot seemed contrived at best. It wasn't all bad. It did end after a while. Yeah, thanks, Bill. Now, you never know why someone might hate your book. Next slide. Sharon is a teacher at a school very much like Montgomery Bell, who thought The Gifted School hit a little too close to home. This book brings the competitive world of parents of gifted children, or children whose parents believe they're gifted, to life. And I found that world snarky and nasty and nothing I really wanted to read about. She's a teacher in a private school, so it hit a little too close to home for her. She was a head of school. Other readers who don't like my novels find them too vulgar. Next slide. And I'll admit, content warnings, some of them do contain a fair amount of obscenity. Also vulgar, Leah says. And for Steph, too bad that such a thought-provoking topic had to be laced with so much profanity. That's why I gave it 1 star instead of 5. I will not read this author again. Another thing you have to remember, if people actually start buying your books, is that they're commercial products, like anything else. They can be damaged, misrepresented on websites, and disappointing once they come out of the box. Next slide. Way too expensive for an ebook. 1 star. I ordered a new book, and this arrived dirty and used. And I feel bad, next slide, for a certain E. Early, who gave The Gifted School a mere 2 stars because he found it disappointing, a soap opera. Next slide. But at least he liked it better than the Nito XV21 pet analogy automatic vacuum cleaner, which he gave 1 star because it kept lodging itself under his kitchen cabinets and TV stand. My favorite kind of 1-star review, though, is the rant. To rant is to speak or declaim extravagantly, to talk in a vehement way, usually about something you despise. I talked to one of the classes this morning about rants. Next slide. Let's look at a few rants about my novels. Here's Yelena reviewing The Gifted School. 480 pages of such garbage. It really wasn't a book about parents trying to get their kids into a school. It wasn't a book about friendships or relationships. It was a book, and really it should never have been a book, about the author's hatred for every single one of his characters. I think he needs therapy to deal with whatever guilt or jealousy or whatever else he was feeling when writing this book, because in all my years of reading thousands of books, I've never seen an author despise his characters so much. Next slide. Casey, on the other hand, is a good reader with a decent vocabulary, but A Burnable Book was one big show-off piece by the historian author. So boring. The story was contrived, twisted, and tied in knots beyond stomaching, with a red herring thrown in your face at every other page. And finally, last slide, listen to what Rachel has to say about The Gifted School. I truly hated this book, upside down, smiley faced. First of all, the characters are absolutely insufferable. The author highlights their flaws, and there are plenty of them, and fails to make any of them sympathetic, including the kids. Although, to be fair, their parents are awful, so what can they do? And while we're on the topic of characters, why TF are there so many? Most of them were completely unnecessary. There are already 8 or more main characters, and throughout the book, the author sprinkles in about 50 additional characters. We're talking first and last names, occupations. Why? How does that help the plot? This book needs a key to keep everyone straight. Honestly, I'm over this in general. I'm skipping. Moving on to the alternating POV, just know, honestly, I'm over this in general. Boring, lazy, unconvincing when it comes to switching up the styles and language level and so on. Okay, I'll stop. Now, you read enough of these rants about how much of a hack you are, and you risk ending up a puddled mess on the floor, unable to sit up straight, let alone sit down and write. But I also think it's important to understand what you might be doing wrong, and to learn from those who take the time to read your books, even if they end up hating them. I've been incredibly lucky in my short career as a novelist so far. I've met lots of wonderful writers. I've felt spoiled beyond belief. But what every writer soon learns is that for every 10 people who love your novels, there are going to be at least 1 or 2 who absolutely hate them. Meaning that for every 10,000 people who love your novels, at least 1,000 or 2 will hate them. And of those, hundreds and hundreds will feel passionately enough about how much they hate your novels to post their opinions on Amazon or Goodreads or Barnes & Noble. And you know what? That's exactly as it should be, because in the end, if you're writing for your own delight and pleasure. If you're writing about something you feel passionately about, then that's its own kind of pain-free satisfaction. And if you're ever lucky enough to find readers for what you've written, even if they write scathing reviews, at least they bought it, or at least they brought it home from the library, or borrowed it from a friend, or learned about it in their book club, or read parts of it in a class, and at least they tried to read it, tried to give your words the gift of their attention, because that's really what it is, a gift. Anytime someone picks up something you wrote and reads it, takes it seriously, it's an absolutely powerful and irreplaceable gift. It's one reason why, the gift of being here this week. I'm so grateful to have the gift of your attention over the next few days. So wonderful to be here, and thank you all so much.
Well, thank you also for being here this week and sharing your thoughts with us this morning, and I'm sure a lot of you all will get a lot out of having Mr. Holsinger here this week when he visits the classes and also does his presentation this evening as well. We have a few more announcements to close out today. Next up, we're going to have one from Braden Ziegler, one from Kavneer Majail, and then Ian Girelli and Jack Spellman. If you could all come up and give the announcements in that order, please.
Good morning. I've been asked to say a few words about maintaining academic honor this time of the year. Summer's around the corner. We got good weather coming up. It's very easy this time of the year to take the easy road out. But you just got to kind of keep up the good habits, make the kind of good decisions that you want to end your year on. No one wants to end their year on a bad note. I just want to urge you guys to keep that in mind, going through exams, AP exams, and then regular exams coming up. So, yeah, thank you.
On behalf of the Sustainability Club, we want to let you know about a screening of the film Kiss the Ground on Thursday, April 28th from 5:30 to 7 p.m. in the Dead Poets Society room. It's a film about climate change in today's world and how it's affecting different parts of our world and different problems. And the National Food Summit has provided a panel to be asked questions, and that'll be interesting as well. And there'll be fresh organic strawberries there. So if you can be there, try to come. It's going to be really cool. The Sustainability Club is also going to be hosting a Carpe Day soon, so it's something to be excited about. Thank you.
Hey guys, I'm Ian Dorelli, the president of our Best Buddies chapter at MBA, and with me is Jack Spellman, the project manager. We're here to tell you about the upcoming Friendship Walk, an event which is the biggest fundraising event for Best Buddies, and we'll be hosting it this year at MBA. It should be a great event with music, food, and lots of fun. First, Jack is going to tell you a little bit about the details of the walk and how to register, and then a video from Matt Moore, our walk team captain this year, will be played.
Yeah, guys, so as Ian said, the Friendship Walk is going to be this Sunday, May 1st. We really want a lot of help. There's going to be a lot of people there. Sorry. So Ian's going to send out a couple emails this week that's going to tell you how to register. You got to register as a Best Buddies member and then register for the event. And it should be a great event, as Ian said. And now we're going to see a video from Matt Moore.
Hello, this is Mother Moore. Right now, I say hello guys at Montgomery Bell Academy. I can't wait to see you, all of you, Sunday at the Friendship Walk.
So please. Yeah, so just look out for those emails. We would love any support and any help. Thank you.
Okay, well, we're winding down here. Let's see. The next thing we're going to talk about just for a second is Indata. How many of you had an opportunity to be on campus at all this weekend? Raise your hand. Lots of you. Pretty amazing day. Where's Catherine Hollyfield? Where is she? Stand up. And I know she didn't do that alone. The entire Indata team would like to thank all the people who made the 2022 Music and Arts Festival possible. It was a beautiful day. Celebrate creative spirit on our campus. We've got a short video I'd like you to watch, and I just want to thank you again for all the hard work you did. All right, last thing I've got a lot of athletic results, so we're going to have to do this in an abbreviated fashion. JV baseball had a lot of actions and performed well this past week. Varsity baseball took 2 of 3 from JP2, beat McCauley up at Swanee, and is sitting on top of the Middle Tennessee region right now with a big 3-game series this week against CPA. Varsity soccer lost to MLK, beat Lipscomb. Varsity tennis finished 4th at the Carter Invitational in what was one of the strongest fields we've ever had from teams not just from Tennessee but also out of state. Varsity lacrosse beat Pope Prep and lost to MUS. Junior school lacrosse had a successful week. Our 8th grade team won the HVAC. Junior school track's getting ready for the HVAC. Shotgun finished 4th in the Tennessee Junior Olympic International Style event. Finally, varsity track. NBA won its 6th consecutive Nashville City Track and Field Championship. Let's hear it for those guys. First place finishes there included Matthew Hyde in the high jump, Takas Patikas in the 400 meters, Sam Nissen in the 110-meter hurdles, Matthew Hyde, Takas Patikas, Josh Robertson, Owen Flanagan in the 4x400 relay. And I think Takas and Matthew and Sam are going to come up and make a little presentation to the school concerning the winning of the city championship this weekend. You guys come on up.
After our loss by 3.5 points at the Doug Hall relays, the coach issued a challenge to our team to dig a little deeper, give unselfishly, and be willing to endure some discomfort and the fear of being risk takers. This week, Ms. Pippin said there was a completely different team showed up to the track meet to compete against 18 teams in the Nashville City Championships.
During the field event competition on Tuesday, Matthew Hyde and Joshua Roberts finished 1st and 4th respectively in the high jump with jumps of 6 foot 6 inches and 6 foot even, both their personal bests. In the pole vault, myself and Jack Perry jumped personal bests of 13 feet and 12.6 to finish 2nd and 3rd respectively. In the triple jump, myself and William Gu jumped their personal best of 44.3 and 41.10 to finish 2nd and 3rd respectively. And on Wednesday in the running prelims, we had 5 more personal bests from Samuel Trumbull, Tommy Carson, myself, Jude Kelly, and Sam Nissen.
Friday night, we continued to grind. Notable performances and more personal improvements in the finals were Takas Patikas taking 1st in the 400-meter run with a 48.9. That was 2nd fastest time run at NBA. Samuel Trumbull took 2nd in the 800. William Holloman took 3rd in the 3200. Sam Nissen took 1st in the 110 hurdles with a time of 15.08. NBA's 4x1 relay, consisting of Hudden Durrett, Josh Roberts, Tommy Carson, and Sam Nissen, took 3rd. NBA's 4x4 relay, consisting of Matthew Hyde, Joshua Roberts, Owen Flanagan, and Takas Patikas, took 1st with a time of 3 minutes, 22 seconds, .2226. That time was the 3rd ever run at NBA, 3rd fastest. NBA's 4x8 relay, consisting of Carter Osborne, Jack Montgomery, Walker Pierce, and William Dean, took 3rd as well. Other personal bests were Wallace in the 1600, Pierce in the 800, Medelson and Leffler in the 3200, Carson in the 200, Kelly, Flanagan, and Roberts in the 400, Nissen and Hyde in the 300-meter hurdles for a total of 23 personal bests over the 3-day meet. At the conclusion of the meet on Friday night, the meet administrators and media chose an MVP. Takas was named MVP on the Nashville City Championship for earning 2 second places and 2 first places in the meet.
We'd like to thank all the students and teammates that came out on Friday night. A huge crowd came out. It really helps us. The team ended up scoring 135 points, 28 points ahead of 2nd place Father Ryan. On behalf of the varsity track and field team, for the 6th year in a row, we'd like to present this city championship plaque to Coach Tips.
Congratulations to the whole track team. Congratulations to Coach Pippin, Coach Redmond, and all of the track coaches. You're doing a phenomenal job, and we really appreciate all that you do. Thank you for your attention today. You're dismissed.